Welcome back to Guns 101, brought to you by the Self-Defense Radio Network. I'm Rob Morse from Self-Defense Gun Stories. My partner in crime here is Amanda from Eye on the Target Radio. We have with us Neil Widener from Active Self-Protection. Neil, we had 3 to 5 million new gun owners in the last 3 months, let's say. Wow. A gun isn't the solution to every problem. Talk to me about when a gun's appropriate and when you need less than lethal options and what those might look like.
Oh, that's a great question, Rob. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is something that in my self-defense journey has really kind of come to the front here recently. In that, you guys introduced me, Neil, from Active Self-Protection. I'm the marketing guy, and I do the training with John. John's the much less handsome version of this. Let's say that, but he's the one that does all the videos, right? But I get to sit back and watch the videos and really let the lessons sink in, and then I do the marketing side of this thing. The less than lethal side of this, as you watch these videos and we really dig into them, everybody's heard the saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And as I've got a special needs son that likes to tinker, and he only needs 2 tools. He needs a hammer and a pair of pliers, and he can do anything. And it doesn't matter if we're working on a carburetor or building a fence, he can do it, right? So you can make those tools fit. And in the self-defense world, it's the same way. If all you carry is a gun, that's the only tool you have other than your voice. And so less than lethal, in my opinion, is a couple of different things, and there's stair steps to it, in that your voice is a big one. Verbal judo, if you haven't read the book Verbal Judo, you should probably consider that, especially if you're carrying a gun. Because if you're carrying a gun, you carry a tool that can take a life in seconds. Now, you're carrying it for the right reason, to defend yourself and do the right thing and protect your family, but not every incident rises to the level of lethal force. And the first thing that we should probably try to do is use our words if we have to. Now, actually, the first thing is walk away. Every fight that you walk away from, you win, right? If you stay out of it, there's no need to ever pull a gun. You don't need to deal with, the after effects of a shooting or anything along those lines. And those people win every time. But if you cannot walk away, your words are your first defense. Your hands are your second defense. If you don't have some empty-handed skills that are, and that's clearly less lethal, but you should have empty-handed skills that can get you out of a fight or get you to your tools if you need to. So that's the next level of it. And then the next level is, something that, between a harsh word and a bullet is things like pepper spray or tasers and things like that. There's the little pepper ball guns. I'm not a giant fan of those. I've got one that I've tested a little bit that I wouldn't carry one around, but for home defense, if that's something that you've got, let me say responsible teenage kids, maybe that's something you want to consider. But I can't, when I walk out of the door every day, I've got Palm OC spray, and they've been around for a while, but they're kind of the new hotness right now. It's a nice little small canister. You can get out, give somebody a little bit. We call it hot sauce, and you're probably not going to go to jail. You're probably not going to get sued. The guy that you pepper spray can come back from that within an hour, right? If you shoot somebody, chances of them coming back are dramatically less, and it sure isn't going to be in an hour. So, if you're going to carry a gun and you're not going to carry less lethal, you're putting yourself at the risk of having to go, lethal right off the bat versus giving yourself some options. And I think of a example I just had within the last 2 weeks, because things are crazy right now, right? But I was sitting in a parking lot waiting for my wife to come out of the store because we were doing our social distancing thing, and I didn't go in. And all of a sudden, in that parking lot, there is a fight erupts, and there's a guy that is talking to his ex-wife about their kids, and he was 10 parking spots away, but talking loud enough I could hear. So you do the math there. But of course, I called 911. I'm like, this guy is, I mean, he's pushing a woman around, and I don't necessarily want to go get involved. I'm gonna if he pushes her again, but right now she's gotten back in the vehicle and he's just down there pounding on the pickup. That, and again, another less lethal option is distance. Get inside a vehicle and protect yourself, right? So as I pulled around to, get an idea of the license plate and get, help there in the right place, the guy turns and looks at me. And now he's coming walking my way of, what is my effing problem? And just, you can fill in the blanks. It was an ugly situation. And I wasn't looking, I could pull a gun and defend myself, but, a little bit of pepper spray on that guy and he's going to settle right down. Now, I didn't have to, thankfully. I used my verbal judo and said something to the degree of, it's a bad idea for you to walk over here right now. And he stopped and turned around, went back and started pounding on his ex's car. Then the police came and he ended up in handcuffs and, everybody was happy, but I'm sure the kids that were sitting in that car are scarred to this day, but, it ended without anything. And, in some cases, if you're a brand new gun owner, the questions that we get all the time is, hey, can I shoot a guy if he does that? Can I shoot a guy if he does that? Can I shoot a guy if he does that? And the question shouldn't be can, it should be must. And if you can say, must I shoot this guy? And you can answer yes to that, then the answer is yes. If you can't say yes to the must question, then you need to look at less lethal, and that's either your hands, your feet, or your pepper spray or your taser, something along those lines. I'm not a big fan of the taser because they don't work effectively unless you're pretty well trained in them, but that's an option as well.
Amanda, I want to hand part of this question to you. Uh-huh. I know you are trained in some less than lethal. I want you to add a flashlight to the mix and tell me if that's a good solution.
Great.
I'll tell you, just the little they have the little flashlights that you can have in your pocket. My radio partner carries a flashlight that is so bright and so able that you can actually use it to start paper on fire. That's how that literally. So I have seen him where it inadvertently came on in his pocket, and pretty soon he's doing the hot pants dance, right? So yes, a flashlight can be, and you can not only can you use it to make someone so you're shining it in their eyes and they all of a sudden all they can see is little purple dots, but you can use it as a Kubotan or as a battering something to force some distance if you're forced to. So I think, yeah, it is a good tool there. And Neil, to the story that you were telling, for the new gun owners, I want to recommend that they go to read Kathy Jackson's book, and she wrote a book called A Cornered Cat. And Kathy Jackson has a story that she tells, and I know it's on YouTube somewhere, and it is The Day That Nothing Happened. And it's talking about being prepared. And it got all scary, and it was in a parking lot, and there was some kind of freaky people, that long-haired freaky people, that it's not just a song. Yeah. And she talked about how she worked her way out of the situation and walked away. And so it was to everyone, there was no real drama. It was the day that nothing happened. And that is the most successful day to someone who carries a gun or is prepared to defend themselves, is successful on the day you don't have to.
Yep.
So,
one more thing that I would add to all of this is there is a thing called image-based decision drills that the Complete Combatant came out. You can go to CompleteCombatant.com, I think, and look at this. But Shelley and Brian Hill came up with this, and I think this is next level for new owners. I've only got to run it once with a class because this is brand new. But the gist of it is it comes in a packet with a bunch of cards with pictures on it. So they're like oversized playing card size, and there will be a picture on it. And you walk up, you've got a 5-second, we call it a par time, but from when you turn it over, you've got 5 seconds to make a decision and act on what you're going to do. And it gets your brain moving in a whole different direction. And I've running it with students. It's amazing to see some folks get it and some folks really struggled with that. But your options are, what do you carry on a daily basis, or what you have to decide you're going to do. So are you going to pick up your pepper spray? Are you going to use your flashlight? Are you going to pick up your phone and dial 911? Are you going to draw your gun and go to work? Those kind of things. But if you don't prepare your brain to think critically through some of those situations, on the day that something does happen, you're going to freeze. And so
Oh,
that's another great tool.
that is a perfect thing. I tell a story on my radio show about the day that I started my house on fire, and how you think that you're a smart person until an emergency happens and all of a sudden you cannot think it through. And so there's that. But we don't have time for that. We're at the end of the session. So Less Than Lethal, Guns 101. Imagine that. We're talking Guns 101, Less Than Lethal. But Neil Widener from Active Self-Protection, look him up. He's on YouTube. You're going to like him. You're going to like all of his cohorts, and you're going to learn something from him. We'll be right back.